present on the epicardium. Then we will see the cross section of the artery per se. Now, in this, you can see the pathology which underlies the angina. Here you will have the deposition of the lipid or the fat molecules that will obliterate the complete diameter of the coronary artery. Now, this coronary artery, right and the left, they are two main arteries, and once the lumen is obliterated, the blood supply to the heart is less, and this creates a oxygen demand and supply mismatch. Now, earlier we just in the previous slide, so in this slide you will see that these are the resistance vessels, which are the perforating vessels, and when the main coronary artery is obliterated, then these resistance vessels, they will have diminished blood supply, and finally that will result in endocardium ischemia. So, coming to angina pectoris, it is basically a mismatch in the oxygen demand and oxygen supply. So, when the oxygen demand is more, there are certain conditions when a person is exercising or eating, or in case of anxiety, the cardiac oxygen demand increases. But at that time, if the coronary blood supply doesn't increase, then it will result in ischemia. Okay, and what is ischemia leading to? It will further result in deposition of the metabolites, which causes pain. That is the angina pectoris, which is actually a pain syndrome. This is a complete image where you have to understand that what are the factors which are affecting the oxygen demand. So they are basically the contractile state of the heart rate, and the wall tension. The wall tension in itself depends upon the pressure, that is the left ventricular pressure and the ventricular volume. And on the other side, when you talk of oxygen supply, the factors affecting are coronary vascular resistance and the aortic pressure. These determine the coronary blood flow. And finally, when the coronary blood flow is good, the two main factors which come in role play, they are the regional myocardial distribution and arteriovenous oxygen difference. So you have to understand three factors on this side and three factors on that side, which are finally bringing about the balance in oxygen demand and oxygen supply. And what is ischemia? When there is more oxygen demand but there is less oxygen supply, that results in ischemia. So types of angina, they are stable, unstable and Prinzmetal, which is the variant angina. The stable one. So when you say that this is a stable angina, the key feature in it is that at rest the patient is normal. He will have no symptoms. But when he will do some level of activity, say exercise or eating or any other anxiety related activity, that will result in increase in oxygen demand in the heart, and the stable angina at rest, there is no oxygen demand supply mismatch. The oxygen demand supply mismatch happens only when the person is at either in active state, in exercise, eating, or in anxiety through emotions. So, when you give a medicine for the treatment of stable angina, which is basically the nitroglycerin, that is definitely going to bring the anginal symptoms to nil. This is the classical thing which we see in stable angina. Okay, that once the person comes back to rest or is given the medicine, the angina is relieved. So there is a specific clinical symptom which happens in angina, and it is radiation of pain towards the left side of the arm. Also, the pain can be at other regions in between the umbilicus up to the jaw. Classically, if a person says कि सर मेरे तो लेफ्ट साइड में है पेन, classically you can definitely clinch to a diagnosis of angina. But when the symptoms are vague, when they say कि I have got pain in abdomen or I have got pain in shoulder, then definitely you have to go for a differential diagnosis कि ये एंगाइना का ही पेन है या फिर कोई मस्कुलर पेन है. Then second variant is the unstable angina. Now, this is dangerous. Unstable angina is dangerous because it has got a crescendo pattern. Crescendo means it is going to increase in duration, it is going to prolong, and it is going to be very, very intense. ये रोके भी नहीं रुकेगा ये पेन. Okay, the unstable angina pain will not be relieved at rest. जबकि ये तो होता ही at rest पे है. When the person is sitting well in AC, watching movie or TV, and suddenly there is chest pain. So this pain is of unstable angina, and medicines may work, may not work in such condition, but as a treating doctor you have to give the medicine because internally what is happening you do not know. So unstable angina is a very dangerous kind of angina, and it may lead to a very sudden death of the patient. Then comes the vasospastic or the Prinzmetal angina. It is seen in very rare circumstances. It is not common, and usually in young individuals occurring at rest. Then there is gender involvement, mainly we have seen in women, and in early morning hours triggered by different factors like cocaine, nicotine, acetylcholine, alcohol. So what happens in vasospastic angina or Prinzmetal angina? There is a sudden coronary artery vasospasm. जो आपकी राइट या लेफ्ट कोरोनरी आर्टरीज है उनके अंदर एकदम से कॉन्ट्रैक्शन होगा and it will lead to ischemia, and so it is vasospastic angina. And this is quite commonly seen in migraine headaches or associated with migraine headaches or Raynaud's phenomena. Now Raynaud's phenomena is basically there is peripheral blood vessel constriction, which results in bluish discoloration of the skin. So, in those patients showing Raynaud's phenomena, you can definitely have a clinch that this can be a Prinzmetal or the variant angina. So this was all about the what is angina, different types of angina. Now we move to the anti-anginal drug classification. So nitrates being the first, you have two divisions. One is rapid onset and short acting, that is the nitroglycerin, and another is isosorbide dinitrate, which is sublingual. Now here, when you are reading books, then they do not mention what is clinically important. They simply mention everything because author has to give you complete knowledge. But when you come to clinical practice, out of the 10 drugs mentioned, only 3 are used, and rest 3, 4, 5 or 7, they are simply not used. So the drugs which I have marked with grey, they are not used in clinical practice, and the drugs which are marked in black, they are very frequently used in clinical practice. So we have the rapid onset and short acting, that is the nitroglycerin, and second is slow onset long acting, which is isosorbide dinitrate or isosorbide mononitrate. Then second group is of beta blockers, which includes propranolol, atenolol, metoprolol and bisoprolol. Third is calcium channel blocker, verapamil, diltiazem, nifedipine, amlodipine. Fourth, potassium channel openers, nicorandil. And then there are miscellaneous drugs which are given behind these prime drugs. They are the cytoprotective drugs, trimetazidine, ranolazine, bradycardia drugs, ivabradine, and antiplatelet drugs, dipyridamole. Then there are drugs used for the management of peripheral vascular diseases, cyclendalate, xanthinol, nicotinate, pentoxifylline, cilostazol. So we will take one by one the nitrates. So what is expected out of you is the how does the nitrates function at molecular level. So molecular level diagram is very well given in your books, and in this diagram you can see that nitrodilators, they release nitric oxide, and upon releasing this nitric oxide, it is going to convert GTP to cyclic GMP, and the cyclic GMP then activates the protein kinase G, which inhibits the calcium channel as well as the inhibits of the pathway of phosphorylation of myosin light chain kinase. Then this phosphorylation is prevented, which further prevents the myosin light chain getting converted into myosin light chain, that is phosphorylation of myosin light chain is further prevented. Ultimately, the myosin will not attach with actins and contraction will not happen. So this is the mechanism of action of a nitrate at the level of vascular, that is blood vessel, smooth muscle. कहाँ पे एक्शन है इसका? एक्शन कहाँ है? At the smooth muscle of the blood vessel. अब blood vessel arteries भी हो सकती हैं, veins भी हो सकती हैं. Nitrates specifically have got higher affinity to work on arteries, on veins. So nitrates reduce the preload. Is it okay? ये क्लियर हो गया कि nitrates will act upon the smooth muscle of the vein, bringing about smooth muscle relaxation, thereby जब आप हार्ट में ब्लड डालते हैं इन द राइट एट्रियम थ्रू द इंफीरियर एंड द सुपीरियर वेना कावा, सो इन वेन्स के ऊपर जब नाइट्रेट्स अपना इफेक्ट करेंगे तो दे आर गोइंग टू रिलैक्स and decrease the preload on the heart. So this was the mechanism at molecular level. Now what is the impact happening on the person? So acting on the vein, there is preload reduction and decreased wall tension. नाइट्रेट दिया और उसने जाके प्रीलोड कम किया, हार्ट के अंदर ब्लड कम आया, ब्लड हार्ट में कम आया तो वेंट्रिकल का जो प्रेशर है, जो रेडियस है, वो सब कम होगा क्योंकि ब्लड अंदर कम आ रहा है एंड दैट विल फर्दर रिजल्ट इन डिक्रीज इन कार्डियक वर्क. हार्ट के ऊपर प्रेशर नहीं होगा क्योंकि उसकी जो वॉल्स हैं उसमें ब्लड कम आ रहा है, तो कॉन्ट्रैक्टिलिटी एज वेल एज वॉल टेंशन ऑफ द हार्ट विल नॉट बी देयर. सो हाउ डज द नाइट्रेट्स एक्ट? दे आर गोइंग टू डिक्रीज द प्रीलोड एंड दे आर गोइंग टू डिक्रीज द वॉल टेंशन. दिस इज समथिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड, क्योंकि आगे जाके जब हम दूसरी ड्रग्स देखेंगे, बीटा ब्लॉकर, देन कैल्शियम चैनल ब्लॉकर, then you have to decide which drug should be given in which condition of the ailment. So आपको बेसिक मोटा मोटा मैकेनिज्म पता होना चाहिए कि what is happening in the case of nitrates. They are going to decrease the preload and that results in decrease in the wall tension. There is a Laplace equation which says that wall tension is equal to the ventricular pressure into the ventricular radius. So when the ventricle radius is less, it will result in decrease in ventricular wall tension. Okay, so this is the effect which you can see on the human being. Now coming to the different preparations of the nitrates. Now you can see that there is nitroglycerin which can be given in a sublingual form. Sublingual will prevent metabolism from the liver because it will directly be available in the blood. So sublingual mechanism of action is very quick. And why do we want that? Because heart को अगर हमने सही टाइम पे सपोर्ट नहीं किया, then definitely it will result in complete body loss of blood circulation and person may come into a vegetative state of, or you can say it as coma. Okay, so it is important that you give a drug and it acts in minutes. The faster the drug acts, the better output you will have on the patients. So glyceryl trinitrate, nitroglycerin given in sublingual form 0.5 milligram and the duration of action is up to 30 minutes. Another form in which we can use is the patch. Now, the drug patch which is applied on the skin, it is for 14 to 16 hours, not for 24 hours. क्योंकि nitrates have got a drawback of developing tolerance. If you keep a patient under nitroglycerin nitrates for 24 hours continuously, it will finally develop tolerance and the effect will not be seen after 16 hours or say after 14 hours. Therefore, to prevent development of nitrate tolerance, what clinicians do is to give a drug-free interval. Drug-free interval of at least 6 to 8 hours. Basically, the dosing is like BD, morning and evening. Evening में like up to 6 or 7 p.m. उसके बाद there is a drug-free interval of 12 hours. पूरे night में there is a drug-free interval so that the tolerance does not develop. Then comes your oral drugs. Oral drugs, definitely they will start their action after 1 to 2 hours, and that action will also wind up in another 2 to 4 hours. So what form we are using of nitrate is important in the sense that there is an acute attack of chest pain. You are going to offer sublingual nitrate, and if a person visits to you with already developed heart attack, say 2 months ago, and now he says ki again I am having a kind of chest pain, so in that condition prophylactically you can give him oral nitrates. So the dosage form is important as per the clinical condition of the patient. Then fourth and the fifth number, just putting across because clinically they are not relevant and not used. Only the first three are used. So here we can see about the sublingual, transdermal and the long-acting nitrates which we have discussed currently, and about the onset of action and duration of action of these drugs in different dosage forms. You can see that the sublingual, they have got 2 minutes in their onset of action and duration is for 25 minutes, while the oral formulation has got onset of action of 35 minutes with the duration of 4 to 8 hours, and transdermal patch with the onset of action of 30 minutes and a duration of 8 to 14 hours. So like this you have to give different form of the same drug depending upon the clinical condition of the patient. So uses of the nitrates, it is angina, acute coronary syndrome, myocardial infarction, congestive heart failure and acute left ventricular failure, biliary colic, esophageal spasms and cyanide poisoning. Now, what is acute coronary syndrome? It includes your unstable angina and non-ST elevation, MI. This I will explain you more in the next lecture tomorrow, where you have to classify that in which stage the patient is and then put it under the common heading of acute coronary syndrome. And myocardial infarction is actually clear cut, which you call as heart attack in the lay or the common language. That means ischemia has happened and development of MI signifies that there has been necrosis in the heart wall, which will diminish the contractility power of the heart. Then there is congestive heart failure and acute left ventricular failure. Congestive heart failure, do you know what it is? Pathology में have you come to this word across? देखिए, from the right ventricle, blood passes through the lungs and then goes to the left atrium. So, when there is obstruction at the level of the pulmonary artery, which is carrying the blood from right ventricle to left atrium, then it will result in congestion. There will be huge pressure on the right ventricle. Okay? So if there can be a lung pathology, जैसे asthma, tuberculosis, or any kind of pneumonia. So this lung pathology can cause congestive heart failure. And then there is acute left ventricular failure. So patient usually who are long standing having hypertension refers to your high blood pressure, and the pressure is high, so much so that the left ventricle is not able to pump the blood to the aorta, so it is resulting into left ventricle failure. Okay, so in such conditions the nitrates will do help. वही मैकेनिज्म है जैसे आपको preload reduction करना है, and when the preload is less, the work on the heart is less. Then biliary colic, the bile duct tract, वहां पे भी जो है smooth muscles होते हैं, and at that when you give nitrates they also relax, and the biliary colic जो है उसमें there will be benefit. Then comes your esophageal spasm. Once again it is because of smooth muscle contraction, तो हमने nitrates दिए, उससे क्या हो गया, smooth muscle relaxation of the esophagus, and that finally results into relief of the spasm. And then finally is the cyanide poisoning. Now see, hemoglobin which is there in our blood, this combines with sodium nitrite to form methemoglobin, which in the presence of cyanide is going to combine and form cyan methemoglobin, and then this cyan methemoglobin in the presence of sodium thiosulfate will form methemoglobin and thiocyanate. So basically अगर कोई cyanide poisoning का केस आ जाता है तो what do you have to give? You will give sodium nitrite, that is basically a nitrate, and that will convert hemoglobin to methemoglobin, and methemoglobin in presence of cyanide will form cyan methemoglobin. Now this cyan methemoglobin is again need to be converted to a non-toxic form, that is thiocyanate, in the presence of sodium thiosulfate. This is important as part of your MCQ, as part of your any kind of question, because cyanide poisoning, although it is very rare, but you have only this kind of treatment available for it in Indian circumstances. So about the nitrate tolerance and drug interactions, as we discussed that tolerance develops to nitrate, hence the dictum is we have to give 8 to 10 hours nitrate free interval so that we can see the productive action of the nitrate. And when you talk of drug interaction, it is the sildenafil, which is again a vasodilator. तो हम ऑलरेडी नाइट्रेट दे रहे हैं जो कि ब्लड वेसल्स को डायलेट करते हैं, उनके साथ में अगर हम कोई और वेसोडाइलेटर देंगे लाइक sildenafil, which is a phosphodiesterase 5 inhibitor, so the mechanism will double and there will be hypotension. There, hypotension meaning when the blood pressure is less than 90 systolic. So we should not give a vascular relaxant drug with another vascular relaxant drug, although the mechanism may be different. The second important drug classification is beta blockers. The important drugs here, once again, propranolol, atenolol, metoprolol and bisoprolol clinically used, while nadolol, celiprolol, they have got theoretical value. So you can focus on the first four ones. Propranolol is non-selective, beta 1 plus beta 2 receptors पे act करते हैं. Atenolol is metoprolol and bisoprolol, they are all cardiac selective drugs acting upon beta 1 receptors. So just a review from the previous knowledge. The alpha mediated action, alpha receptors जो होते हैं arterioles veins के ऊपर, उस पे alpha mediated action होगा तो it will result in constriction of the arterioles and the veins, and that will result in increase in blood pressure. Opposite to it, if the beta receptors present on the arterioles and the veins, they are stimulated, it will result in fall in blood pressure. And the third is the beta 1 receptors specifically present on the heart, which will upon activation will cause cardiac stimulation. So now, how does beta blocker act on the body? You can see that beta blocker directly acts upon the heart. पहले क्या था, nitrates, they used to act upon smooth muscles of the blood vessel, resulting in decrease in preload. Now the mechanism of action of beta blocker is different. It is going to result in decrease directly in the heart rate as well as the contractility of the heart. क्योंकि हमने देखा कि हार्ट के ऊपर कौन सा रिसेप्टर है, बीटा 1, तो बीटा ब्लॉकर दे दिया तो हार्ट रेट और उसकी कॉन्ट्रैक्टिलिटी दोनों हमने कम कर दी. सो मच सो कि रेस्टिंग इंडिविजुअल को कोई फर्क ज्यादा नहीं पड़ेगा, लेकिन अगर कोई एक्सरसाइज करेगा, दौड़ेगा या एंशियस होगा, तो अंडर दैट सर्कमस्टांसेस सिंपैथेटिक स्टिमुलेशन will result in increase in heart rate, बट अगर पेशेंट बीटा ब्लॉकर के इफेक्ट में है तो ड्यू टू एंटी एड्रिनर्जिक एक्शन ऑफ बीटा ब्लॉकर द हार्ट रेट विल नॉट इंक्रीज। मतलब हार्ट को हमने एक तरह से प्रोटेक्ट कर दिया। जैसे बरसात हुई, आपने छाता यूज कर लिया, वैसे ही अपन ने बीटा ब्लॉकर दिया तो हार्ट को अपन ने प्रोटेक्ट कर दिया। अब आप कितना ही एक्सरसाइज करें, एंजाइटी में रहें, हार्ट रेट विल नॉट इंक्रीज, क्योंकि बीटा ब्लॉकर ने उसकी हार्ट रेट को कंट्रोल कर लिया है। एंड व्हाट इज द एडवांटेज? जब हम हार्ट रेट कंट्रोल करते हैं, यानी कि हार्ट रेट को कम करते हैं, नॉर्मल कितनी है हार्ट रेट? 72। तो जब हम उसको कंट्रोल करेंगे तब क्या होगा? When the heart rate is low, the blood supply to the heart improves। क्योंकि देखिए, हार्ट जो है, इट हैज गॉट द मैकेनिज्म ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्शन, रिलैक्सेशन। ओके, जब हार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करता है, दैट इज द सिस्टोल। ड्यूरिंग सिस्टोल हार्ट को कोई ब्लड सप्लाई नहीं होता। कॉन्ट्रैक्शन के दो पार्ट हैं, सिस्टोल दैट इज कॉन्ट्रैक्शन एंड रिलैक्सेशन दैट इज डायस्टोल। तो जब हार्ट कॉन्ट्रैक्ट करेगा, then the resistance vessels और the perforating vessels जो कि मायोकार्डियम में परफोरेट कर रही हैं, सपोज दिस इज द मायोकार्डियम वॉल एंड दीज आर द रेजिस्टेंस वेसल्स। वो जब कॉन्ट्रैक्शन है हार्ट का, तो अंदर जो वेसल्स हैं उनका ल्यूमन कंप्रेस हो जाएगा। तो कंप्रेशन की वजह से blood supply to the heart doesn't happen at the time of systole. Then when does it happen? At the time of diastole. जब हार्ट की मसल्स रिलैक्स करेंगी तो वो ल्यूमन्स खुलेंगे और उसके अंदर ब्लड फ्लो होगा। तो अगर मैंने हार्ट रेट बढ़ा दी, कॉन्ट्रैक्शन रिलैक्सेशन इस तरह का है, तो ब्लड सप्लाई टू द हार्ट विल हैम्पर। लेकिन अगर मैंने हार्ट रेट को कम कर दिया इस तरह से, तो ब्लड सप्लाई टू द हार्ट विल इंप्रूव। कैन यू अंडरस्टैंड दिस? ओके, सो दिस इज द वे द बीटा ब्लॉकर्स एक्ट डायरेक्टली अपॉन द हार्ट थ्रू द बीटा 1 receptors, causing more and more blood to flow during the which phase of contraction? Diastole. And once there is adequate blood flow during the diastole, that means oxygen supply is adequate, so the ischemia vanishes. फिर ischemia नहीं रहेगा। Is it okay? So what are the indications? They are the coronary artery disease patients by reducing the myocardial oxygen demand, then in stable angina, first line drug, and also used in unstable and non-ST elevation MI after you start the nitrate or the calcium channel blocker. This is a point to be noted and remember, because when you are giving beta blocker, beta 2 receptors होते हैं आपके आर्टीरियोल्स पे एंड वेन्स पे। तो बीटा अगर एक्शन होगा तो क्या होगा? रिलैक्सेशन। और आपने ब्लॉकर दे दिया, बीटा ब्लॉकर दे दिया, तो अब वो रिलैक्सेशन नहीं होगा, तो अल्फा का जो इफेक्ट है दैट विल प्रीडोमिनेट एंड इट विल कॉज वेसो कंस्ट्रिक्शन। आर यू गेटिंग इट? कि दो तरह के रिसेप्टर्स हैं, अल्फा एंड बीटा। बीटा का तो एक्शन अपन ने खत्म कर दिया बीटा ब्लॉकर देके, और अल्फा का अभी भी रहा, तो उससे क्या हुआ, वेसो कंस्ट्रिक्शन। तो कहां तो अपन उसका वेसो डायलिटेशन कराना चाहते थे, और हो गया क्या, वेसो कंस्ट्रिक्शन दैट कैन प्रोवोक एंगाइना, उससे एंगाइना बढ़ जाएगा। इसीलिए द डिक्टम इज, in cases of unstable or non-ST elevation MI, we have to first give either nitrate or calcium channel blocker, and then in addition we can give the beta blocker. Is it okay? यहां तक समझ में आ गया? Yes या no? Okay. So, coming to the next, their contraindications: hypotension, bradycardia, chronic bronchitis, asthma, and severe renal insufficiency. Because beta blockers, if given in renal insufficiency, it results in decreased GFR and renal blood flow. Now, the third type of drugs, they are calcium channel blockers. Can you understand the difference between the first two? One is the nitrate and the beta blockers. Yes या no? किसको समझ में नहीं आया? Anyone? चलिए. So you have the calcium channel blockers. Now we divide the calcium channel blockers into two groups: dihydropyridine, which is lipophilic. Again, the important ones are amlodipine, nimodipine, and nifedipine. And just having theoretical value of nitrendipine and vanidipine. And you will find XYZ other drugs in this group in your books. But when we talk of practical aspect which we give clinically, then these are the main 2 to 3 drugs which we give. And another group is non-dihydropyridine, in which there is verapamil and diltiazem. Now these calcium channel blockers, they act through calcium channel, which are voltage sensitive. When you talk of the heart, the important type of calcium channel which is present is L type. Here we will talk of L type, that is having the long lasting current. So this type of channel is important for us when we talk of angina. And you can see what is the location and the function. The location on the heart, through L type of channels, there will be excitation, contraction, coupling in cardiac and smooth muscles. Cardiac muscle as well as smooth muscle पे जो L type के channels होते हैं, through them the calcium channel blockers are going to act. Another important is the SA node and the AV node conductivity. तो SA node is what? Pacemaker of the heart. And AV node is for impulse regulation. So the third area is endocrine cells for release of the hormone, and the fourth area is the neurons for the release of the neurotransmitter. And the blockers are nifedipine, diltiazem, and verapamil. The T type and N type of channels we are not going to deal in this lecture. So now the calcium channel blockers As we have seen, the initial molecular mechanism of nitrates, जिसके अंदर GTP से साइक्लिक GMP था, फिर उसके बाद फॉस्फोराइलेशन ऑफ मायोसिन लाइट चेन काइनेस था, फिर लाइट चेन काइनेस का बाइंडिंग विथ एक्टिन, वो वाला जो मैकेनिज्म है, द सिमिलर मॉलिक्यूलर लेवल पे मैकेनिज्म इज देयर फॉर द कैल्शियम चैनल ब्लॉकर. ओके, बट देन व्हाट इज द फाइनल इफेक्ट? इफेक्ट में डिफरेंस है. मैकेनिज्म वॉज सेम, वही स्मूथ मसल ऑफ द ब्लड वेसल, पर इसका एक्शन है along with on heart there is direct action. जो हमने दो ग्रुप्स में डिवाइड किया, डाइहाइड्रोपाइरिडीन एंड नॉन डाइहाइड्रोपाइरिडीन, तो डाइहाइड्रोपाइरिडीन में जो ग्रुप है दैट इज एम्लोडिपिन, दिस इज गोइंग टू एक्ट अपॉन द ब्लड वेसल, जबकि जो नॉन डाइहाइड्रोपाइरिडीन verapamil and diltiazem है, they are going to act upon the heart directly through the L type of voltage sensitive channels. So nitrates का इफेक्ट वेन्स के ऊपर, बीटा ब्लॉकर्स का इफेक्ट हार्ट के ऊपर, कैल्शियम चैनल ब्लॉकर्स का इफेक्ट आर्टरीज एंड हार्ट. दिस इज द ग्रॉस डिफरेंस. कैल्शियम चैनल ब्लॉकर्स क्या करते हैं? दे आर गोइंग टू रिड्यूस द आफ्टर लोड. दे आर गोइंग टू एक्ट ऑन द आर्टरीज मोर एज कंपेयर टू वेन्स. Grossly you have to understand this, that calcium channel blocker, they are going to act upon the blood vessel as well as heart both. And when you talk of the blood vessel, so they are going to act upon the arteries more, resulting into decrease in afterload, resulting into decrease in afterload. And when you talk of verapamil diltiazem acting directly on the heart, it is going to result into decrease in the heart rate, heart conduction velocity. It is going to decrease the contractility of the heart. Am I able to clear you out the three different and important drugs acting through different mechanism at different sites of action? Okay. So these calcium channel blockers, that is amlodipine, will act on arterioles, and verapamil diltiazem will act on the heart, decreasing the SA node automaticity and the AV node conduction. So what will be the final outcome? Final outcome यही है कि जिस तरह का ड्रग का मैकेनिज्म ऑफ एक्शन है, उस तरह से ही हम उसको फिर यूज करेंगे इन डिफरेंट पैथोलॉजी. होगा यही, आप तीनों में से कुछ भी दे दीजिए, हार्ट को, उसके वर्क को ये कमी करेंगे. ठीक है? सो दिस इज अ डायग्राम फ्रॉम योर बुक ओनली. इन दिस, first there is verapamil, then there is nifedipine, and then there is diltiazem. What you got to, or how you got to grasp is, आप nifedipine को, इसकी जो टेबल है इसको diltiazem के बाद में देखेंगे. Then you can easily learn the table. in the sense that when you see the cardiac effects, heart rate, AV conduction velocity, contractility, and the output, they are going to decrease in the verapamil and diltiazem, while the nifedipine of the dihydropyridine group is going to increase, all the three. Okay? And what is the effect on vascular smooth muscle? The effect on vascular smooth muscle is maximum shown by the amlodipine group, that is the dihydropyridine group. Is it clear? Can you understand the three drugs of calcium channel blocker, out of which amlodipine affects the afterload, okay, and diltiazem and verapamil, they are going to affect on the heart and are going to decrease the heart rate, decrease the contractility, decrease the conduction velocity. Okay? Is it okay? So now finally, once you know the difference in the action, you can give treatment as per the पैथोलॉजी. जब हमने कहा कि भाई पेशेंट को हाइपरटेंशन है, अ पर्सन विथ हाइपरटेंशन, से अ बीपी ऑफ 200/100 comes to us, then what you would like to suggest or give? Calcium channel blockers, because they are going to reduce the afterload. High blood pressure is primarily because of the arterial pressure, and so what comes, the drug of choice in the management of hypertension is the calcium channel blocker. Okay, then we talk of angina. So in angina, do you think your amlodipine will act? What would you like to give, verapamil, diltiazem, or amlodipine in angina? See, in angina, what you would like to give, the first drug amongst the calcium channel blockers. आपके पास 3 ड्रग हैं और आप एंगाइना में प्रेफरेबली क्या देंगे? Once again, amlodipine will definitely help, but if there is angina and the heart rate is high, then you will give the diltiazem and the verapamil. So you have to be very specific with the clinical condition of the patient. If the clinical condition you do not know, or you have not intercepted it properly, then you may not give the appropriate drug, and so finally, when the appropriate drug is not given, the patient will not be relieved and he will visit another one, that is the another doctor. Okay, so angina mein also you can give the drugs, but preferably depending upon the clinical condition, you have to decide whether you have to give amlodipine or diltiazem or verapamil. And then suppose the person is having only tachycardia, heart rate is increased, it is going to 140, then definitely you are going to give which calcium channel blocker? Which? Verapamil or diltiazem. So arrhythmia is what? When the rhythm disturbance is there in the heart and you have the pulses shooting very high or they are at very low pace, say it is tachycardia or it is bradycardia. So primarily in tachycardia you are going to give these drugs. Bradycardia में दोगे? Why? because it will decrease the heart rate as well as conduction velocity. So this is in the calcium channel blocker. You will have the pharmacological actions of reducing myocardial oxygen demand, heart rate and contractility, verapamil and diltiazem. Then on the heart load, that is the afterload, for reducing that you have the amlodipine and nifedipine. And then there is increasing the myocardial blood supply, protecting the ischemic myocardial cells. This is the pharmacological action of these calcium channel blockers, and this will be the clinical use, wherein angina you can give nifedipine, verapamil, diltiazem depending upon the clinical condition, and hypertension specifically you got to manage with amlodipine, arrhythmia specifically with verapamil and diltiazem, and another is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, which again through verapamil, which will reduce the heart rate. So the crux is that action of dihydropyridine like nifedipine, they are similar to those of the nitroglycerin, while action of verapamil and diltiazem, they are similar to those of the beta blockers. Adverse effect of amlodipine, they are headache and ankle edema, and of nifedipine it is tachycardia. Then verapamil and diltiazem results in constipation and bradycardia. They may result in bradycardia, and contraindicated in unstable angina. So this was the individually we have seen the drugs. Now we give the combination. So combination, what is the advantage? You can see that the beta blockers, they prevent reflex tachycardia and contractility produced by nitrate induced hypotension. Similarly, the nitrates prevent any coronary vasospasm produced by the beta blockers. Then nitrates prevent increase in the left ventricular filling pressure or preload resulting from the negative inotropic effect produced by the beta blockers. So these drugs are supporting each other so as to get a much more benefit for the patient. Nitrates and beta blockers, they both reduce the myocardial oxygen consumption by different mechanism. And nitrates and beta blocker both increase the subendocardial blood flow by different mechanism. So hand in hand the two drugs are given to manage the angina. Similarly, nitrates can be combined with calcium channel blockers so as to reduce the preload, afterload as well as myocardial wall size, and increase the coronary blood flow, collateral blood flow and blood flow to the ischemic area. So this is important. Verapamil or diltiazem contraindicated with the beta blockers because ये लाइफ लॉन्ग ध्यान रखिएगा. लाइफ लॉन्ग मीन्स लाइफ लॉन्ग. जब पेशेंट आपके सामने हो तो नेवर मिक्स अप कैल्शियम चैनल ब्लॉकर with beta blocker. Calcium channel blocker specifically, I am talking of the diltiazem and verapamil. जैसे ही आप किसी को देंगे calcium channel blocker and beta blocker, you will find the heart rate falling to 40. Okay, so you do not have to give directly acting drug, calcium channel blocker, verapamil or diltiazem along with the beta blocker. But of course, you can give amlodipine, which is again a calcium channel blocker, with the beta blockers. There will be no harm. Okay.